Shoot.
Hi, it's Doug from Rise Above Performance Training, and today I'm going to talk about hip flexors. I notice with a lot of my athletes, hip flexors get tight, and even for myself. Play a lot of sports, you get a lot of dynamic motion, and then what happens during the day is students go to sit, or people on computers go to sit. They're sitting all day like this. These muscles from here to here shorten up, they get tight. It doesn't allow us for good hip extension. We get posture like this, and we can't get that good hip extension we need for most sports. So what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to show you how to test for hip flexor length, and then also we're going to run through a little bit of mobility on how to fix that, and also we'll show a couple strength training exercises. So the first thing I'm going to do is the Thomas test. So to do the Thomas test, check for hip flexor length, sit on the edge of the table, and you're going to bring both knees into you. You're going to rock back, and you're going to hold one leg and release the other. So the leg that's released, if you have good hip flexor length, you should have this thigh on the table. Now I showed you my bad side, so you can see mine's popped up a little bit. There's a little bit of space there. If I was better, it would be lying pretty flat and relaxed. Now, to see if you have tension here, what you're going to do is you're going to extend your knee, and if it touches the table better, then it's your quadricep muscle, your rectus femoris, that's a little bit tight. If you extend your leg and it's still popped up, the psoas way up in here is tight. So that's a test. And you obviously want to do both sides so you can reset, rock back, and switch. You can cut it. So now we're getting some mobility on these are good to do before you exercise. Just get the hip loose and ready for action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one knee on the mat here just for support, have this shin fairly straight. I'm going to push my hip forward as far as I can. A lot of people have sagging hips and then they're able to get really far forward, but it's not really stretching the hip flexor. So I'm going to push my butt forward, get a little bit of tension here too, because that's going to keep control of the hip. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to push forward. When I feel a little tension, I rock back. I'm always going to maintain this hip forward in the back here. So just rock it forward a little bit. I also like to change the angle a little bit. Just make sure when you go out, you always keep your knee out over your toe. You don't want to cave it in. It puts a lot of stress on the knee ligaments in there. And you can even go inside a little bit. And this one I feel a little bit more as I go inside. So you're going to do both legs on that. Another one you can do, especially if you have a tight quadricep, you're going to have one knee on here, on a mat, and you're going to just use a wall, something supportive. You're going to have your knee just behind your hip a little bit to get that quad stretch again, or excuse me, the psoas stretch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach up and grab my foot so I can stretch out my quadricep, and I'm just going to lean forward just slightly, again, keeping my hip forward and stretching that out. I don't want to rock back and forth, and I don't want to lose tension too much. So it's very small pulses. Just kind of pushing, using this for support a little bit. And again, we'll do both sides. Last one you can do is some type of bridge. Now there's bridge variations. There's your basic bridge where we're squeezing the glutes and extending the hips. So this gets a nice flat hip. That's pretty easy. After you master that, you can do bridge progression. So what I'm going to do is I'll do kind of an intermediate bridge progression. I'm going to pull my knee in, and then what I'm going to do is extend one leg. So my goal is to keep this knee in, so I don't want this rocking back and forth, and is to extend my outside hip until this is as flat as I can get and as stable as I can get. And I come down. I like to hold for a half second at the top just to make sure I stabilize the motion and down. Okay. Okay, so now we're just going to do the strengthening aspect of it. We did our test, we did our mobility, now we're going to do our strengthening. I think where a lot of programs fail, in especially youth athlete programs, is they don't do any single leg, and that's why the hip flexors are tight and they also don't function properly. So The good news is it's pretty easy to learn. You just have to do almost any lunge type variation. The bad news is they're lunges, no one likes them. But I'm going to show you two that I find really effective. And one is the reverse lunge. It's just reverse lunge or step back lunge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold a weight. You can hold the weight any you want. You can hold 2 dumbbells. You can hold a kettlebell up high. I like to hold a kettlebell low because it also works on the stability. So aside I'm holding the kettlebell on, I'm going to step back. I'm going to get a nice stretch in this hip. So again, my knee is a little bit behind my hip. I'm going to pause and stabilize, drive off the back leg. So again, we don't want to be wobbly. We want to be sink, stabilize, drive up. Sink, stabilize, drive up. As I get back in this position, I feel a little bit of a stretch here. That's the way I know my hip flexors getting stretched, getting loose, and then reacting. The next one is a little more advanced. It's called a Bulgarian split squat, or you can have your leg up on a bench if you want to call it a bench split squat. Again, you can hold dumbbells. I've seen people do it with a bar on their back. I'm going to hold a kettlebell and see if I don't fall. Hold it uneven here. So I'm going to put my back leg back. I like to keep it flat. Some people keep the toe up. Personal preference. It does change the muscles a little bit, but it's up to you. Now, what I'm going to do again is I'm going to drop down. So this deficit of the bench allows me to sink a little bit lower than I could in a normal lunge and drive up. So this sinking gets a big stretch in that back leg and helps that hip flexor become more mobile and strong in that position. So try those out, let me know what you think, and I hope this helps lengthen those hip flexors up.